This evening. I'm looking forward to talking with our guest from America. And his name is Mark Lindquist, and we'll be introducing him real soon. But in the meantime, before we get there, we're going to be talking about what's going on, kind of militarily. Mark also is a military man in the U.S., as I am, so we have some really common grounds here to talk about and some things that we can share, and our views and our objectives and things that we can see and look at when we're looking at the events going on with the war and strategy and just kind of the overall view of how things are changing right now. And then we'll also be talking about the humanitarian side and the volunteer work and what's going on there. Mark is, since he's been here, he's been very involved and working with several people and some NGOs. So we're going to give him a chance to share his story, where he's from, where's his background and things, and go over all that. And then I'll touch a little bit about really the atmosphere of business in Ukraine and Kyiv especially, since it's the city that I live in, and being boots on the ground, you get a chance to really see what's going on. You get to see the development that's still going on. You get to see the work that's still going on. People are going, to and from work. New businesses are starting up. So it's really, it's nice to really be a part of that growth. It's setting up really for a big boom that's going to come into Ukraine when this war is completely abolished and broken. Ukraine is living in peace. Victory Day is going to be the greatest day that we will ever experience. It's going to be like 1945. It's going to be like New York when the streets were just filled and the ticker tape parades and everything that was going on. So that's going to be Ukraine when this is over, because this war has been going on since 2014, since February 2014. So a very, very long time. And for Ukraine to experience its freedom, its blue skies, and its golden fields again is just going to be absolutely joyous, amazing, and we're all in anticipation for that to happen. So, without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to Mark Lindquist. So, Mark,
hey,
thank you for joining us and being here. I was very happy to meet you 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, time flies out here.
It does, and then of course I saw you again at the big meet.
Yeah.
Which was a great event, a good social event, and everything. So that's a business networking for a lot of expats and a lot of foreign people, actually visitors coming in and stuff. So, but anyway, what I'd like for you to do is take a little bit of time, tell us who you are,
sure,
what you do, where you're from, and what you've done, your military background a little bit. Just kind of give us a little overview.
Sure. I was born in Seoul, South Korea, and then of all the places that I could have been taken out of that orphanage that I started out life in, I got to come to the United States of America.
Wow.
8 months old, raised on a farm in western Minnesota, wonderful family of 4. So the Lindquist family adopted me, and I had this idyllic life,
So that's the Lindquist part of your name.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Swedish part of my background.
Yeah.
So even though I may not look like it, raised by 2 wonderful parents and an older sister. And, that background has kind of always led me to be thankful for life in America. You think, I don't know how many countries there were in 1981 when I was born, but now there's 195. You could have landed anywhere.
Right.
You get to come to America. And so the freedoms that we have, the self-determination that we enjoy, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, etc. And, when the war, the most recent aggression, full-scale invasion kicked off on February 24th, it just seemed like this land, these people were fighting for the exact same principles that I cherished in America.
Yes.
So let's go see if we can help.
Very good. And what is your military background?
I was 1 in 4 intelligence analyst for the National Security Agency while I was in the Air Force, stationed at Hickam in Hawaii.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I know Hickam. Right by Schofield.
Absolutely. That's where they do the real work, up at Schofield and Kaneohe.
Hickam had that one little pizza place right there that I took my sons to.
Yeah.
And it was the tastiest pizza right there on Hickam Air Force Base. So, duże smaczno on that one.
So it was 5 years there as an intelligence analyst up at the Cunha Tunnel. And really just started to, form opinions and knowledge about how the world works. Got to read world government reports, intelligence reports from all over the planet, how militaries act, how different economic policies might make a difference in on the global scale. And so have always been interested in what's going on in other parts of the planet since then. And so, knew the struggle, a little bit of the struggle that Ukraine had been going through since the Orange Revolution, the Revolution of Dignity, and now in 2022, just compelled me to come over here and see if I could help this country.
Very good, very good.
Much as I
We're
could.
happy. So it kind of makes sense, though. You were in intelligence.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes with Air Force. Intelligence doesn't really go well with Marines, right?
You said it, not me. Hey, I always said that intelligence is only the name of the career field. It is not a state of being or mind. Right? There's a lot of dopes in intelligence too.
Yeah, no, I know, but we get ragged on all the time. That just give us some crayons and a piece of paper, and a Marine is happy. So.
But the chair force joke about the Air Force
Yes.
is true. I spent my 5 years at a desk and sitting in a chair.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was more the active soldier, in the Marine Corps, and enjoyed it. But it doesn't matter what branch you're in.
Yeah.
One thing about it is we make jokes, okay?
Yeah.
Just like the British and the Americans make jokes with each other, but
Yeah.
yet they're still English.
Yeah.
And there's still that tie. There's still that camaraderie
Yeah.
of the British and American ally, So we don't diss them on that. We actually love their support, and they love our support.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but we still make our jokes.
And the razzing that we do between services is really out of love and respect.
It is.
Every
it is.
single one of us
Yeah,
knows
we only
it.
laugh at it.
It's one team, one fight.
And
right?
some of the jokes, I haven't never heard before, and I just like, oh no, that's clever. I can only laugh at it.
Yeah, yeah.
But we can't do our jobs without each other.
Yeah.
And that's the real thing. Ukraine is teaching the Western world about a different type of warfare.
Yes.
Logistically, through drone warfare, through the way this fight is being done. We thank God for Americans and British and the
Yes,
Germans
thank
and the
you.
West that is supplying the weapons to Ukraine, because Ukraine needed it.
Yeah.
We did not have the weaponry to be able to take care of these things. Those Stingers and those in-laws and those javelins,
Yep.
changed the tide.
Absolutely.
So
And
we're very, very
HIMARS and
we're very
yeah.
thankful for that. But the one thing that you and I share that really a lot of the world doesn't, even in the military, is the ability to communicate and ability to support one another in a thing. So when
Yeah.
we have an F-16, we're out in the field, and an F-16 is called in, and we say we need support, we need ground support, and he's there in a flash. That's Air Force,
Yeah.
and that pilot feels that pressure that he needs to liberate, he needs to secure a zone
Yeah.
for our guys,
Our
for
guys are
me,
down there.
for
Yeah.
me and on the ground. So when we hear that, or when we hear the Warthog, when we hear those things coming in, because an F-16 you can't hear coming in, you can only hear it leaving.
Yeah.
It's so fast that it's beating the sound.
Yeah.
And so you only hear the afterwards. But we got the radio in. He says
Yeah.
2 minutes out, 2 minutes outbound, whatever. Just he's letting us know, and we know we need to hold our ground until we get that support, and we're just anxiously waiting for that support.
Mm-hmm.
Support is key. Artillery. We call in the coordinates,
Yeah.
and we give them the coordinates on that, and it says, look, we got a hot spot over here. We need to eliminate this. Our guys are under pressure. We got our heads down, and we
Yeah.
can't move. And so the radio calls that in, and then the logistics part of it, which you're in intelligence,
Mhm.
you're the one giving the information
Mhm.
for everybody to work in coordination.
Yeah.
So so we appreciate every branch, including our corpsmen, including our medical staff.
Absolutely. It takes all of us, to make the wheel turn. And I think being involved in, supporting the military out here in Ukraine, it really has opened my eyes to how much sometimes we take for granted in the U.S. the domination of air, land, and sea.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
Yes.
that's when you look at world militaries, there's a handful of us that can do that and wage war with the Blue Water Navy, etc.
Correct.
Dominance of the skies. We've been talking about closing the skies in Ukraine for now a year, and it really is kind of a moment for us to realize how fortunate we are. The investment that our country's made in our Pentagon and
Mhm.
our armed forces really leaves our guys out there as well supplied as could be. And sometimes that isn't the case. When you started out in Ukraine with 200,000 soldiers,
Right.
now we built a 1,000,000-man army, and they only spent $6 billion a year on their military before the war.
Correct. And because they're limited on their budget for the military, they're not really focusing on the training part of it. They're just focusing on the needs of, we need equipment, we need this,
Right.
and not realizing that without the training, we don't have a strong force.
Yeah,
Because we have a lot of individuals out there. We have over 70% now that are civilians
Right.
in our armed forces here in Ukraine.
Yeah, yeah.
And because they have no conscience or they have no muscle reflexes or
Yeah,
anything
no muscle memory.
to understand that orders are important and execution of orders needs to
Yeah.
be done in order
Yeah.
to win a battle.
Yeah.
So, but the heart of the Ukrainians has really shown the world an amazing, I don't even know how to really the word to express it.
Well, war is about hearts and minds, right? It's not just about bombs, bullets, and beans. And so my perspective is, I was just thinking about this the other day. The strength of the American military, yes, we have the armament, we have the weapons, we have the ability to wage war with these massive weapons of war. But really the strength, Mike, is our hearts and minds.
Mhm.
Because you can tell an American military member, specifically a Marine, like, you can throw anything at that Marine, and nothing will stop that person, right?
Right.
We will adapt and overcome, right?
That's
It-
the motto, yeah.
It's ingrained in us from the very first day of basic training, and they teach us that, like in our Air Force creed, I will never falter and I will not fail. Right?
Okay.
And so that mentality, I think, is what makes our military strong, because we know failure is not an option. What I see in Ukraine amongst the civilians and military is
Mhm.
that same mentality.
Yes.
And they didn't have to go through United States military basic training. You talk to a Ukrainian, they only talk about victory.
Right.
Right?
Right. That's correct.
They never talk about, what if we lose? No, they have
It's
the
never
same
been in the thoughts. Yeah.
hard-charging, tenacious mentality that the American military knows.
Correct.
I think it's why you can bet on Ukraine to not back down or concede.
Or to fold. That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
That's correct. And they talk about numbers. Russians about 120 to 130 million, and we're at 30 to 40 million.
Yeah.
So there's a size difference. But again, the 130 million aren't fighting hands.
Right.
And so Russia can only afford to put so much into this because he's got other enemies
Yeah.
on his borders,
Yeah.
and they're anxious to start taking some area,
Yeah.
and start kind of coming into Russia. So you don't put your whole all your eggs in one basket, as we say,
Right.
to do that. So those are the so there's a lot of things that we see automatically in
Yeah.
this war, and we can also feel and see the trends.
Yeah.
We know the atmosphere, and there's some dark days in there, but any command, they don't look at the dark days, or they would just be overwhelmed.
Right. Right.
They have to look at the end product and how to get to that end product. And I'm very proud of our guys here. I'm very thankful. And when victory happens, I mean, we're going to have a celebration that is going to
Yeah.
be equal to 1945 in New York City
Yeah.
on the ticker tape of
Yeah.
of all of the military going through and the celebrations. It's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
We're 9 years into this war, and for that to come to Ukraine's peace again, blue skies and golden
Yes,
fields,
I love it.
is going to be a celebration just unmatched, and the joy, the elation, just the release of that pressure.
Yeah.
There's such a weight. We don't really realize how much weight we're carrying
Yeah.
because we're just fighting through it, But I tell you, when that adrenaline rush, when it ends,
Yeah.
there's another dopamine that comes into our body, and it's almost like you'll pass out. I think people are going to sleep like they've never slept
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
The first night,
And I think for Americans who are protected by those two great big oceans on either side of us, protected from most of the bad
Right.
things on Earth, I think it is hard. It's very difficult for an American on American soil to put themselves in a situation where they're in a society living daily amongst missile strikes
Mhm.
and artillery shells and are under siege, right? Because we don't know
Right.
what that's like in America.
Correct.
9/11, just a small short dose of what people who are living through constant warfare have to deal with from
Correct.
mental stress, not being able to relax, can't even go shopping consistently for the things your family needs because the air raid sirens go off and the store
The
closes.
stores closes, yeah.
Just these little inconveniences that make up life at war. You really got to be here to understand what that's like.
It is, and I've written about that. Actually, I've posted that and written that on Facebook about the dynamics and the feelings. And I've brought guests on here that are, civilian guests on here that are Ukrainian that have shared their story and to listen to the changes and the things that they've gone through and the heartache and
Yeah.
the pain and also the struggles, going through. So I wanted to create this because our message goes out outside of Ukraine. Our
Yeah.
message here goes really to the world,
Yeah.
and we want to be able to reach out more and more. But I want to give them during this year. Before it was just strictly business, and I was given the opportunities about investing in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Then a year ago, I changed that format to humanitarian and
Yeah.
the family lifestyle and the changes and some of the military. I've had some military personnel on here,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about the different battles ahead of us and the things that we're working with. I want people. It's hard to give that really. I mean, you can watch a movie and be moved by it,
Yeah.
but you walk away.
Yeah.
And you live your life,
Yeah.
And so people will listen to our message, but we just keep giving it because it lets people know that, this is going on right here.
Yeah.
Even Russia doesn't feel it because they're the aggressor.
Yeah.
So the citizens there are just freely happy as they can be. Oh, they're suffering because of the sanctions, and McDonald's is closed, and iPhones have stopped, so they can't get their little toys. And so they're blaming the West, they're blaming America for they can't get their toys.
Yeah.
And so they're whining little babies, and they say, and so their mentality is, well, why, we just need to just completely take over Ukraine, and that's their mentality. But that's that propaganda and brainwash that
Right.
they've gone through. So they don't even feel the pressure is going on here,
Right.
and which is pure terrorism, by the way. Those missiles, they're just random strikes. I mean, they're going after some of the grid, which is still terrorism.
Yeah.
Because the grid affects the civilians,
Right.
not the military.
They use winter as a weapon.
Yep, and so that's just pure terrorism. That's a greater terrorism than ISIS has ever done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's killed more people than ISIS has ever killed. And Putin and Russia is a terrorist country and a state.
Absolutely.
And they've been
State-sponsored terrorism.
Yeah, and they haven't started with Ukraine. It was in Georgia. It was in Bosnia. It was in many other countries.
Yeah.
We can go through. Russia is a terrorist, absolute terrorist, and they don't have no thought process. They don't think twice about killing 1 million, 2 million, 5 million people at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just so it's and that's a weird kind of pressure. In World War II, our military faced an enemy that we never thought possible, and that was the kamikaze.
Yeah.
The guy who's willing to run his plane right into the ship.
Right.
Okay, I'm dead. I can't do anything, but I'm going to take every last life I can take on my way out to their glory. That's the way they were trained and the way they were motivated to
Right.
for the emperor. And we're like, wow, we've never fought an enemy like that before.
Yeah.
We have to take him out way ahead before he even gets close enough
Mm-hmm.
to kill us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a different warfare. Well, that's what we're dealing with here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's an enemy that is ruthless and doesn't care, and we're just going to fire missiles at you. We don't care.
Right. They don't value human life as the Western world values
Correct.
human life,
Correct.
right? I don't know if I've got the quote correct exactly, but President Zelensky often talks about there is no such thing as an insignificant life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, we are over here trying to preserve human life, delivering tourniquets and first aid kits
Yes,
and
yes.
bandages and making sure that our guys can survive those battlefield wounds, make it to the yellow zone back to a hospital, and hopefully survive this. And on the other side of the front lines, where the Russian troops stand, there isn't the same value of human life.
No.
They're conscripting men at the border. They're taking hundreds of thousands of people from the central part of the country and bringing them down into what they call the meat grinder.
Exactly.
They don't
yeah.
care about human life.
Not even their
as we
own.
do. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's certainly, in my estimation, it's something that in the world today is probably the most important thing happening on planet Earth, is this war in Ukraine. And it is my goal, and thank you for sharing your airwaves with this topic,
Mhm.
to make sure that people don't forget about this amidst a million distractions on our smartphones every
Correct.
day, right?
Correct.
How trivial is the thing that we scroll past on a social media page when there's people that are sitting, living their life in their living room, and a missile flies in the front window, right?
Right.
So, we just need to be talking about these things at a deeper level than repeating talking points fed to you by Vladimir Putin, saying things like, why are we spending billions in Ukraine when we can't help our people here? That's exactly what Putin wants you to think and repeat.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So, I'm passionate about the freedom and the free world that Ukraine is leading here
Yes,
in this country.
yes.
I've often said that Ukraine is now please don't be offended, Americans, right? But I believe that Ukraine is the leader of the free world. I believe that right now, if you were to look at the 1.6 billion of us on planet Earth who are fortunate enough to live in a free country, a democracy, or something like it, that Ukraine is providing leadership for all of us that we should emulate.
Correct.
If we want to build a great society ourselves.
Yeah, and so it is on center stage.
Absolutely.
And which does provide some really positive dynamics for Ukraine.
Yeah.
One, that they feel the support of the world.
Yeah.
They do feel that.
Yeah.
And when we come in, now I've lived here for 4 years, so I've been here, and I also trained back in 2015 in the military. And so I've been involved the whole time. And I've been here before that, during peacetime in 2012. And, so I've been through all of these changes in Ukraine. But now as a permanent resident, I consider myself as a resident of Ukraine. And Ukraine is my home and Kyiv is my city. You're also working on that now. Yeah.
Applying for the green card, temporary residence permit, permanent residency, whatever you want to call it. And so, that's the level of love I feel for the Ukrainian people, is that I see what's happening in this society, which is, I believe, this casting aside of differences and working together on a common problem or goal that's greater than yourself. That's what we saw during our greatest generation.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Where it was all hands on deck.
It was men and women, all hands on deck, yes.
And I see that happening in Ukraine.
Yeah.
I believe it will make Ukraine the most formidable society in the free world post-war.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can figure out how to work together, because you got to know the history in Ukraine. Maybe the listeners don't know as much about how East versus West, or the different lifestyles of Donetsk Oblast, Luhansk Oblast, where there was mainly Russian speakers, and that was the culture and language. And then versus Lviv, Western Ukraine, closer to Poland and the rest of Western Europe.
Correct.
There was a bit of a separation there. This is what the Ukrainians are telling me, right? Their words, not mine. But now, 6 million people moved out of the Donbass into Western Ukraine. And now there's this mix of the society.
And cohesion with it.
Right, which brings them closer together.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I look forward to the days when tourism is going to just blast this place.
Yeah.
It's going to be like Honolulu. It's going to be like Waikiki, right?
Come on down. And I'm telling you, I've traveled, 50-some cities in Europe, right? And, the American military took me on a lot of those trips. And I've traveled with my parents and friends to many European cities. When you come to Kyiv, when you come to Dnipro, Kharkiv, Lviv, it feels, to me, a lot like a lot of the other European cities I've been to. Remember, we call this Eastern Europe, not Southern Ukraine, or not Southern Russia.
Right.
Let me say that again.
Yeah.
We call it Eastern Europe, not Southern Russia.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It is, they've adopted a Western-style life, worked hard to build a something that resembles a democracy and freedom of speech, of press, of assembly, etc. And so this is the free world, and America should stand up for it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I agree with it. I agree with you totally on that, and it just makes everything exciting about how America sees us, see Ukraine. In 2014, of course, it was all over the news, but the news faded really quick.
Yeah.
This one has not faded. We're been a year in the news.
Yeah.
Even the controversy that's going on in the U.S., especially about the news, we've spent $40-some-odd billion, and we're sending that over here, blah blah blah. Why are we doing? So we're getting both sides of the aisle talking about the pros and cons of it, right?
Yeah.
But it still keeps it in the map. It keeps Ukraine on the map. Now, you came here. Your first day you came here.
Landed in Warsaw March 31st, and then got across the border for the first time April 5th.
April 5th, and then you came straight to Kyiv?
We pushed our way probably by early May out to Dnipro and Kramatorsk.
Oh, okay.
To get out to the Donbass where people needed help the most. Spent a few months out there, a couple months in Kharkiv over the summer, and then moving all over the country wherever help was needed.
So, and this is what I kind of wrote on the script for a video today.
Yeah.
Everyone has their role. Okay, support is everything. Whether you are actively fighting, because we do have some foreigners actively fighting on the line. We have other foreigners that train, like myself, who train. We have others who bring in supplies. Then there's the supply chains. Others who finance.
Yeah.
And so
everybody.
it all together and stuff like that. And so Now you've been doing military support. Have you been doing any civilian support?
Both. Maybe 80-20, military being 80, 20% refugees in civilian hospitals. But, we just came into the question and asked dumb questions to smart people.
Right.
And said, what do you need? I'm not going to come in as an American and then assume that I
Right.
know how to solve your problem. I'm going to humble myself and ask you what you need. And mostly it was medical supplies.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
the basic combat first aid. It was the tourniquets and Celox, and it was the Israeli bandages, etc. And so we ended up bringing roughly $5.5–6 million worth of medical supplies into the country in the last year, with much help from many Western and
Yeah, the
Ukrainian
$5 to $6 million
volunteers.
is doesn't come out of thin air.
Right, and it was the hearts of the American donor and folks that chipped in to be able to raise I suppose we're at about $300,000 of cash that we've raised, and then leverage that to move donated supplies over and into the country to the places where it's needed. And so now we're kind of shifting a year into it. A lot of the Western volunteers have left. We estimate we're probably at about 20% of the number of Western
What it
volunteers
was,
from last spring.
Okay.
And so, if there's only 1 in 5 still remaining and operating out here, my intentions have then shifted to full-time fundraising and PR to make sure the
Okay.
world doesn't forget about it, and then also to raise the funds that are necessary for all of our NGO partners
to
that are
continue
online.
going. Yeah. Well, very good, very good. And, and I'm thankful for all of that work. It is a lot of work, and again, it's just the behind the scenes. People, people see, oh, we're raising money. This NGO says we need money, and you hear that, and a lot of people get tired of just those words.
Yeah.
We need money.
Yeah.
And it sounds like begging and stuff like that, but it's not really. It's but we don't realize all of the logistics that go behind the scenes to make it work and support it. We praise our frontline people. We praise our ones that are driving the vans up to to deliver material, to deliver vests, to deliver bandages, and all those things. We praise them, and then of course they use those vehicles to take out the injured and bring them to the hospitals and things like that. So. But that's the front line, those are the ones that are kind of the heroes that we see. But the hero doing the PR, the one who's having to take all the no's, it takes a lot of no's to get some yeses in there, but you press forward because you have that goal to work and to bring those funds in. Those funds support the necessary things to make it work, to all come together. It doesn't matter whether you have the classical U.S. Military coercion and coordination to win a war, as much as it also takes a civilian to work the same way.
Yes.
Ukraine, even in 2014, it was the leader of the volunteer world because even the Ukrainians themselves, they all pitched in. Every Ukrainian pitched in. It was also a game changer.
Yes.
Was the civilian volunteerism and the involvement to getting in there and getting dirty.
And let me jump in on that for a second. I think the importance of the civilian populace in any war. We think about who is fighting the war, and we think about who's a soldier in the trench. We think about the weapons that they fire on the zero line or the front line. But really, in my estimation, the people who win wars are the civilians backing the army that's fighting.
Exactly.
Am I right?
Yeah, that's right.
That if you don't have the support of the civilians to be able to run supply lines, to be able to support them, with their hearts and minds, that's an army that is probably going to fail if the people are not on your side. These people in Ukraine are on the side of the army. They have billboards promoting the army.
Yes,
they have T-shirts promoting the army. Everybody's all in.
Do you remember the Molotov cocktails?
Yes.
In the beginning?
Yes.
It was the civilians putting those together.
Yes.
And it was the civilians that actually stopped a few fronts.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me tell you.
And a Molotov cocktail stopped a tank. It just enveloped it in flames and it just totally stopped the tank.
Some of these things that you're seeing are incredible. And they're, again, civilian-led. And, if I am an adversary of a country who has the entirety of its citizens behind their army, I'm afraid of that adversary.
Yeah.
So I am, hey, if I can speak to the free world, if we are Americans who say that we love freedom, if we are Americans that say that we cherish these values, if we want to fight for freedom on planet Earth, let me tell you, there's a teammate that I want on my team, on Team Freedom, and it's the Ukrainians. Am I right?
Yes.
You don't want them fighting against us one day.
And their heart, even, they're patriots.
Yes.
But they do love their American support. They do love their British support. When when we have our foreigners and we have our tourists and we have our guests coming in and visiting, they're open armed, you know,
Yes.
and they're very thankful. Ukrainians are a people of gratitude.
Yes.
And that.
Oh, shower you with gratitude.
Yes.
You can't, the hugs, the time we spend, handshaking and feeding us and giving us gifts when
yes.
we show up with these things. It's like, folks, I'm here to serve you, but it ends up their I call it aggressive hospitality, right?
Oh yeah, don't turn it down.
Yeah.
If all ages.
Yes.
They're just the children are just open armed with flowers. That
Yes.
the parents and then the grandparents and the sweet babusas, they are just they're in tears, and they don't have much, but what they give you is all that they have to give. And because they're so thankful for that liberation, and they're so thankful for that support and help, So even of their own, it's not just the foreigners, but even of their own soldiers and their own men and people who are fighting. So we're thankful. And I'm going to change the tone a little bit here,
totally.
so we'll be winding down. That's what makes Ukraine also a wonderful place of investment, because when this is over, there's obviously a big rebuild that's going to take place. We've got cities that are completely demolished and devastated.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. There's going to be rebuilt. There's going to be millions of people coming back to their country.
Yes.
And they're going to need places to live and to stay. And we have programs. We've had them on here on my show, programs to help that, to get people and to get them into their own homes again, to new homes and things. They won't necessarily have the jobs right away. So we're going to be providing sources of income and sources of job opportunities for these coming in, because it's going to be like the 50s. There was a huge industrial boom of work, just a tremendous amount of work in the United States and across Europe.
Yes.
That changed the dynamics. It made the middle class the absolute essential part of the economic growth of America and around the world, around the free world. And that's what's going to happen in Ukraine. It's going to create great wages. It's going to create great opportunities. We'll probably have a new baby boom going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's when we were having 4 kids, in a household, 6 kids in a household, 5, 3. Yeah. Those were normal numbers during those times.
Not anymore in America.
Not in America, but, family core is important here. They love their children here, and they love the family core and the unit and stuff like that. So it's going to be exciting to be a part of that. And it's an opportunity for investors who are looking, because investors are looking for tools. They're looking for instruments to invest in.
Yeah.
They're running out because SVB is collapsed. We're looking at these banks that are collapsed. The monies are disappearing. FTX collapsed. We're looking at all of these volatilities, and money's just disappearing.
Right.
That's what happens when the woke takes over your money. So where do you put your money? Because the wealthy still need their money to grow.
Yeah.
They know that if their money's stagnant, that they're losing.
Yeah.
And so they're always looking for these opportunities, and so they're looking for those instruments. We provide that through the bonds.
Yep.
So the bonds are secured by the hard assets in Ukraine that we invest into, and then to get the good returns. They're actually getting very robust returns, from 7 to 9% on their bonds.
Excellent.
That's British percent, not any other. So that's
sure.
And so they're getting, they know that they're above the inflation rate, and they know their money will continue to grow. That's what they're looking for, that passive income. And so there's a lot of opportunities here in Ukraine to do that.
Everywhere.
Even now, there's still development going on. There's still building going on. There's still new restaurants that are opening. There's still new businesses. There's still new IT companies that are opening up right now during this time. And Ukraine's city streets are packed with cars.
Yeah.
People are walking all over. So, this is still moving forward, and people are still looking forward. And this is a great opportunity, especially now, because when this ends, that's when there's going to be a flood coming in, which causes your money to really get caught up into that, into growth.
So don't be too late to the game. Learn about the Ukrainian economy, get in touch with you, and see what opportunities there are. Because as I travel around the country, even today, there's I can go to McDonald's down the block. I see KFC, I see Under Armour, I see Nike, I see Teslas on the road. These are American companies. This is an extension of the American economy employed by North American companies, right?
Yes.
And so here in Ukraine, I believe, I don't know if this is an accurate comparison, but I see South Korea. I was born there, in the early 80s. It's not the Samsung Times Square looking place, back in the 80s that we know today. They're now a $1.8 trillion economy and a great trading partner of ours, right? Why can't American investors, or I believe they should, see Ukraine as that same beacon of freedom where there's free market economy, capitalism, and you can invest dollars here and also be on the side of freedom?
Yes, and that That actually is one of the projections, what you said. I use Korea as
Yeah.
some of my examples.
Yeah.
Because Ukraine is an emerging market.
Yes.
And now, and then also Ukraine into the accession of the EU
Yeah.
has been accepted.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at three to 5 years of being a EU partner and,
Yeah.
and part of the European Union. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Teaching my students how to speak clearly.
And that should just give some confidence to the American investor.
Exactly.
You know, that there's a
exactly.
foothold of the Western world here.
This is a good opportunity to put your money in areas of security.
Yes.
And again, it is backed. You look at hard assets. You don't crypto, even currency exchange, and these things that are kind of floating in the air.
Yeah.
There's nothing to really back it, and we've seen that.
Right.
We've seen that collapse going on just left and right.
Yeah.
It happened under Obama administration, and it's happened under the Biden administration.
Yep.
So. But these are actual secure
Yeah.
investments
Yeah.
with growth. Ukraine is on the cutting edge for also green energies.
Yes.
They do already have some of the wind going on there in the Kherson Oblast area. They have the wind mills down there.
Mhm.
They use hydro,
Mhm.
and they're using solar as well.
Yeah.
And so they're also doing the biofuels.
Yes.
Through trash and using the resources of waste.
Yeah.
Biofuels and
Yeah.
stuff. So they're really pushing the edges on that, and coming out to be one of the leaders for clean energy.
Yeah.
They're using nuclear. Nuclears are shut down right now, but they have two plants, and those are ours.
Yeah.
Those will be up and running. And we were, prior to the war, selling energy to Europe.
Sure. Sure.
We were surplus, and we were selling the energy. So it was a great economy for Ukraine. So. Great opportunities.
I think there's opportunities everywhere. And also, it's an entrepreneurial society,
Yes.
right? People love starting businesses. People love, maybe their business closed because of this war, and now they've pivoted and they've, moved to a different industry or different, supply chain. And so what I've seen is the supply chain that was dried up of all the things that we needed
Mhm.
in early spring last year, and then now, here a year later, they've almost all caught up. All the things that we need to support the people for the army, etc., it's in the country.
Right.
80-90% of it.
Correct.
Who did that? Business people from Ukraine.
Yes,
So, it's almost a kindred spirit when me and my business friends back home, they think the same. They look for opportunity. That's what you get to do in a free society.
Exactly. Exactly right. And that's what brings that joy, that peace, and that happiness index.
Yeah.
So Ukraine is on the right track. So again, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and I'm thankful for Mark for joining me this evening as well. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
And we can go on forever and ever and ever. As I always said, every time I have a native English speaker on the show with me, we could talk for hours. So, but we do have to, close it down and call it to an end tonight. But thank you for joining us this evening. You have yourselves a wonderful evening, and I look forward to seeing you next week. If it is on schedule, I'll be here on Tuesday at 5:15, providing something else doesn't quite jump in on that schedule for us. Our backup is on Thursday. So have a good evening, and Slava Ukraina.
Heroям slava.